Keith first asked me to take the sermon today, he said, it's John 9, 1 to 7. Then the email this week is John 9, 1 to 12. But don't worry, I'm going to touch on the whole chapter. No, don't panic. There's good news coming. This is what we read, John chapter 9, verse 1 to 12. Jesus has just made the great statement to the Jewish and the Pharisees in the previous chapter, and questioning him. And he says, before Abraham was born, I am. Tried to stone him. I am Yahweh, the Lord. He was claiming, they said, to be God. In this chapter 9, we read this. As he, that is Jesus, as he went along, he saw a man blind from birth. His disciples asked him, Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born? Neither this man nor his parents sinned, said Jesus. But this happened so that the work of God might be displayed in his life. As long as it is day, we must do the work of him who sent me. Night is coming when no one can work. While I am in the world, I am the light of the world. Having said this, he spat on the ground, made some mud with saliva, and put it on the man's eyes. Go, he told him, wash in the pool of Siloam. This word means sent. So the man went and washed and came home seeing. His neighbors and those who had formerly seen him begging asked, Isn't this the same man who used to sit and beg? Some claimed that he was. Others said, No, he only looks like him. But he himself insisted, I am the man. How did your eyes open? They demanded. He replied, The man they called Jesus made some mud, put it on my eyes. He told me to go to Siloam and wash. So I went and washed, and then I could see. Where is this man? They asked him. I don't know, he said. Amen. Man born blind. On the screen in a minute or two, hopefully, we'll see an outline of where we're going today. I said to you there's good news. Well, the good news is the fact that there are 4 things mentioned up there, but we're not going to do the first 3. You don't have to panic. The 10th one, the 4th one's just for information rather than for anything we're going to look at and see. The passage, as I said, starts just after Jesus made the claim, I am, the claim to be God in the Jews' eyes and ears. Here, he comes across a man who was blind at birth, it says. Blind from birth. Not someone who had had sight at any stage, totally blind from birth. For the Jews, this was a sign of punishment from God. If anything happened to you, it was to be punishment. So the disciples ask the obvious question. Lord, did this man sin that he was born blind? Or was it his parents? In in Psalm 51:5, for example, the psalm where David pours out his soul to the Lord after Nathan has confronted him with his adultery with Bathsheba, he says, from the time I was born in my mother's womb, I've been a sinner. This whole idea, and at the end of nearly this whole chapter, again the Pharisees take up this theme. How dare you lecture us? You're a sinner. Get out. But Jesus says, whoa. It's nothing to do with the man. It's got nothing to do with his parents. This happened so that the work of God might be displayed in his life. Jesus says to his disciples, we've got limited time here, guys. You know how when it comes to night, around about 6 o'clock-ish in those days, 9, it gets dark. You can't work. You've only got the time between 6 in the morning and 6 at night to get your work done. Well, I've only got a limited time, says Jesus, to do my work here on earth. My work to be the light of the world. I genuinely was going to mention the candle just at the wrong time. Thank you, Jean. Why do we light the candle? To remind us that Christ is the light of the world. Jesus had already said this in chapter 8, verse 12. I am the light of the world. He's making a point here. The very sermons that Keith's asked us to do over the summer have been to point to the signs of Jesus. Who is Jesus? What's so special about Jesus? Is anything special about Jesus? And Jesus calls on his disciples to do the work of him who sent me. Come and help me do this work. Now, what was Jesus' ultimate work on earth? Some of you might be wearing a clue. The cross. Calvary. That's what Jesus came to do. Remember, Joseph was told by the angel prior to Jesus' birth, you have to give him the name Jesus because he will save his people from their sins. At the cross, where he took the punishment. So Jesus has limited time. He knows he's got limited time to complete his ministry. Give us a hand, lads, will you? Come and help me get my work done, to shine the light into this world of darkness. He called on his disciples then to do that. And he calls on us to do the same today, to join him being the light of the world. Matthew 5, Jesus says, you are the light of the world. And he tells us to let our light shine before men, that they may see our good deeds and praise our Father in heaven. When it comes to the actual miracle, it's told very simply and briefly. Jesus bent down, got some mud on the ground, spat in it a wee bit, mushed it up, put it in the guy's eyes, said, right, up you go to the pool of Siloam and wash. Boom, boom, boom. He's already changed the emphasis from, is this guy a sinner, is he a parent sinner, to what's the purpose of this? The purpose is to show you who I am, says Jesus, to be the light of the world. And there's no right way or wrong way to heal somebody. If you look at how Jesus healed, sometimes he used saliva, yes. Sometimes he put fingers in a deaf man's ears. Sometimes he would heal in person, like here, to the blind man, the man born blind. Sometimes from a distance. Remember the Roman official who came, come with me, Lord, my child's sick at home. On you go, he's healed, says Jesus. He was, from a distance. Sometimes he tells the person to go to a pool beside her, this pool of Siloam. Sometimes Jesus does it one go. Boom, boom, right. Man comes through the roof, remember? Stand up, pick out your bed and go. Sometimes it takes two shots. There's a story elsewhere in the Gospels where Jesus goes to heal a man who's become blind. Can you see? Well, sort of fuzzy sort of trees. Hang on, how about now? Aye, fine, thank you. There's no right wrong way. If somebody here is sick today, you can come for prayer. But try and do the miracle yourself. Get an appointment with your doctor. We can mix things up. The good news for you is I'm not here next week. I'm preaching elsewhere. And it's on the enigma of healing, which is fascinating. Well, I'm fascinated by it. And that church is daft enough to call me back a few times. There you go. And here Jesus makes a mud ball out of the clay, is what I'm trying to say. Genesis chapter 2, verse 7. The Lord took dust and made man. The pool of Siloam means sent. Christ was sent into this world to save his people. Now the guy goes, he does exactly what Jesus tells him to do. Boom, bang, boom. Wow, I can see. Right, well, it's time to go back home. Goes home. The curtains are flickering. The neighbours are looking. The neighbours are out. Hey, who's that guy? Is that guy? You the guy blind from birth that used to sit here and beg? Is that? Aye, it's no. It's not him. It's somebody else. Don't be daft. What does the man do? I am the man. Aye, it's me. How on earth can you see? Well, this guy, Jesus, came and boom, boom, boom. The disagreement here among the neighbours touches on the basic question in this passage. Who is Jesus? You see, if this guy is not the blind man, and he's just kidding on, well, this Jesus is nothing. But if this is the guy, who do you know goes around opening eyes? Who is this Jesus? Who is he? The investigations later on, taking the passage, the rest of the chapter, taken on by the Pharisees, also centre around this question, who is Jesus? They get the blind man in and say, oi, what's going on? Who's this guy? I ain't got a clue who he is. I'll just tell you what happened. He came and told me to put one in my eyes, go and wash myself in the pool, and I can see now. Aye, right. Well, no convinced, said the Pharisees. Tell you what, get his parents. Parents turn up. Parents thinking to themselves, got to be careful here. If we say the wrong thing, we're getting the boot out of the synagogue. Is this your son? Yeah, it's my son, yeah. Has he been blind from birth? Yes. How come he can see? Don't ask us, mate. Ask him. He's old enough, he's of age, he can speak for himself. They sidestep rather largely from the question. So the Pharisees get the guy back in again. Right, who is this chap you're talking about? Any idea? Prophet or something? But one thing I do know, I was blind, but now I see. Long before John Newton decided to use these words. I am blind, but now I see. And he turns the tables on the Pharisees. All right, you've asked me this before. You're asking me again. You lot want to become a disciple of this guy? Don't you dare suggest that is the answer. Don't you dare. Who do you think you're talking to? He said, well, see, it's a bit interesting. You see, you know and we know that God doesn't listen to sinners and bad people. So if this man were not from God, he could do nothing. Now, the Pharisees could have taken their time, done a good Church of Scotland thing and formed a committee for a discussion. What is this about? But no, they had a better idea. You sinner, out. Throw him out. Who is not present during the time when the neighbours question it, and who is not present when the time the Pharisees question what's going on? Give you a clue. His name starts with J. Jesus. But the whole passage is about the power and the identity of Jesus. Who is this guy? Now, the blind man's not yet a follower of Jesus, but he faithfully testifies to exactly what Jesus told him to do and exactly what happened. No matter what the Pharisees throw at him, you can threaten me with anything you like, mate. You can kick me out the synagogue. I know I was blind and now I see, and Jesus did it. In the last section of chapter 9, I haven't touched on it yet, Jesus meets the man. He's heard the man's been thrown out of the synagogue. And he says to him, do you know the Son of Man? Well, I've never seen him, the guy says. Who is he, Lord? And he says, the one who's speaking to you is the Son of Man. And he worshipped God and became a believer and a follower. The chapter ends with Jesus declaring this: "For judgment I come into this world, so that the blind will see, and those who see will become blind." Some Pharisees hear this and are offended, and they complain. And Jesus says to them, "If you were blind, you would not be guilty of sin. But now that you claim you can see, your guilt remains." Points to ponder. If you know that Jesus is the light of the world, how does this affect your life and how you live? It had a huge impact on the blind man. He was begging beforehand. He couldn't get a job. No social security. Now you can see. Now you can get a job. Now you can work. From not knowing anything about the Lord Jesus Christ, he knows him. He's met him personally. If you and I know Jesus Christ personally, how is that reflected in how we live? And how do you react when you're challenged, mocked, and criticized for this belief? Are you like the blind man, or are you like his parents? You see, it's like what I was saying to the kids. Somebody said to me, "What did you do last week, Thomas?" Well, was it Monday? Monday, yeah, I tried to play golf, but it was bucket marine. Tuesday, went to see Mum and Dad. Wednesday, bucket marine again, no golf. Thursday, I had a meeting in Mum and Dad's house about their care and blah, blah, blah. My sister was up, good meeting, thank you. What are you doing Friday? Got totally confused because I didn't have a grandson as normal. Didn't know what day of the week it was. Day and Friday. Saturday, went to my father-in-law's house and he passed away recently, and sorted some things out. Had a nice meal down in Tyningham with my sister-in-law and husband. You haven't mentioned Sunday, Douglas. Oh, no, quite a quiet day on Sunday, actually. Nice meal. We don't want sometimes to put ourselves out there. And somebody brings up the subject. Well, what do you think of Jesus? Yeah, he's quite a good guy, quite a good teacher. Oh, did you see the game yesterday? We sidestep like the parents, do we? Or are we like the man? Stick doggedly to what you know and not be ashamed to say so. I was in church on Sunday, ministering a lot of folk away doing a mission at Ardnamurchan. This strange guy had preached and taken the service. And we're talking about a blind man, how Jesus healed a blind man. You know what? Actually, the way to quieten somebody is to tell them you went to church. Last place up north, I was playing golf with this guy. I hadn't played with him before. 2 or 3 of us. Didn't know each other. We got to the third hole. What do you do, Douglas? Oh, I'm a Church of Scotland minister. Halfway down the 6th fairway, go and say a prayer for me for this shot, will you? That was it. I once played with this other guy on the golf course once. Him and I never met before. Are you still working, Douglas? Oh yeah, but only work once a week. No comeback. Not the usual. What do you do? Only work once a week. Jesus says there are none so blind as will not see. Are you? Am I? Have you ever been a Pharisee? The Pharisee who knows everything there is to know about the Hebrew Bible, everything they need to know about the law. That's why they moaned about Jesus. He made mud in the Sabbath. The Pharisees could take me upside down, round about, and twist me in wee holes. They know everything. Do you know Jesus? Who? Someone said that some people in some churches can come to church for decades without ever knowing or seeing the need to have Christ in their life. None so blind that will not see. Have you been like the blind man, liberated from spiritual blindness into spiritual sight? A few years ago, I had a very interesting experience. It must have been something like 2019, roughly. Maybe a bit before. Doesn't matter. Or even 2018, maybe. Holiday in Arran. You might not believe this, but we've got a ferry. They were running in those days. Brilliant place, Arran. Went to visit a place by accident. In fact, I'm trying to work out if it was, I think it was Skye, actually. Never mind. But anyway, doesn't matter. Wee village hall, middle of nowhere. It had a fair on. Wife and I wandered in, a few stalls to look at, cup of tea, cup of coffee. This ear starts twitching. So that guy says something about Church of Scotland. Maybe not, stuff it. Back to car park. Walking across the car park. Opened the door for my wife, in the car, this voice, Douglas! Who the heck's this? This guy coming with this woman. The woman was the only girlfriend I've had in my life, apart from my wife. Hadn't seen her for 40 years. 40 years. I recognised the husband. He's a minister as well. And they'd spent a lot of time in ministry in Skye. During that time when this girl and I were going together, there was a lot of huffing and puffing about the Holy Spirit going into church. And Douglas decided to take his stance. I'm Church of Scotland, I don't believe in that nonsense. I'm not sure about that nonsense. I'm not this, but that. Douglas got his eyes open, thank the Lord, eventually. We can be blind. We think we know what's right. I was talking to somebody just today, and the book of Revelation came up in conversation. My last church, one white lady nudged another lady, go and ask him. And I said, ask me what? Will you do a Bible study for us in Revelation? About 2 and a bit years later, we finished it. I said, right. I said, well, the first 3 chapters are fine. Last 2 or 3 chapters are fine. A bit in the middle, but you get through it. I learned from that. My eyes were open to certain things in that book I hadn't been aware of before. Let's not think we know it all. Let's follow Christ, the light of the world, who consistently continues to enlighten us about himself. And like the blind man, let's just turn and say, I once was blind, now I see. I once knew Jesus as somebody out there, now I know him inside. And I don't care what you think about me, if you think I'm a nutcase or whatever. He's my Lord. And I'm going to stand by him steadfastly, like the blind man did. Amen. Now time for more prayer.